Hi, Miss Easer.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Radonna. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, so I have a little bit of information here. It looks like you were having some issues with possibly your garage. You're worried about suit for some repairs. Is that right?
Yes, I've operated Easer's Garage for over 20 years now, and I've had an issue with a regular customer of ours, just a dispute about the repairs.
Okay, so this customer that you're having an issue with, first of all, I'm just gonna basically let you know I'm just gonna get as much information as I can from you.
Okay.
This consultation is totally free. And then once we get into the details and we kind of work out what issues you have going on, then we can talk a little bit more about representation and everything. Just so you know, everything that we discuss is completely privileged. So any information you relay to me, this stays between us. So just feel free to be as open and honest as you can. All the information you give me is definitely going to help with, me being able to evaluate what we can do with your claim, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so you own your own garage, and this incident involves a customer who you've seen regularly. Do you know how many times you've seen this customer?
Well, the customer is Dr. Steph Garfield, and she purchased this luxury Lectura about 5 years ago, and ever since she got that car, we've provided her with the service on it.
Okay. That was about 5 years ago, you said?
Yes. Now, I've known her longer than that because I have a relationship with her uncle and their family, and they're also pretty well known in the community. So.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more about specifically, is this a certain issue that happened recently that you're concerned about, or is the...
Yeah, it was about a week ago. She brought in the Lectura and said that she's having trouble getting it to start and to run. And so I have a new mechanic at the shop. His name is Billy, and he's trained specifically on Lecturas, so I asked him to take a look at it. And he did. And according to what he says, he spent about 20 minutes with the car looking at it. He did a diagnostic scan, and he came back and told Dr. Garfield that the car needed a new emissions control device, a valve job, a tune-up, and then probably a new temperature control valve. And then I think Dr. Garfield asked Billy for a quote. And then she left the car with us. Or the next day she came back and dropped the car off with us for repairs.
Okay, so you said she asked Billy for a quote, right?
Yes.
And did he give her that quote?
He did. He scribbled it like on the back of an envelope and gave that to her.
And do you have any of that information with you?
Yeah, it was $1,002 for parts, $900 for labor, and so the total was $1,902.
Okay, so he gave her that information, and then the next day you said she brought in the vehicle. Is that correct?
She did. But when she came in on the second day, Billy realized that the car was going to take longer to fix than he thought. And so he came and we talked about it, and I told him just to call her and let her know. And when he called, he could only get her secretary. She only left her home office number. And so he could only get her secretary. And he explained that there was some trouble and it was going to take longer than expected. and that she shouldn't come pick up her car until 6 p.m. the next day.
Okay. And he left that message with her secretary, correct?
Yes.
And so what did you hear? Did you hear back from her after that? or-
No, she didn't come back the next day or the day after that. She arrived. She didn't come back the day that we called or the next day. So the day after that, she came after 6 p.m. And we had finished the work, and she had the chance to listen to the engine and turn on the ignition and ensure that she was satisfied with the work. And then she was given the final invoice for $3,002.
And let me go back to one part here. You said that Billy had left the secretary a message about it how it was gonna take longer than he originally anticipated for the work. Do you know if he mentioned in that message about cost?
I know that he told them that he had experienced some trouble, but I wasn't told that he mentioned cost specifically.
Okay. And what happened when you gave her the invoice?
She was really upset and thought we were scamming her, and so she grabbed it and she was waving it in my face and she was yelling and she was screaming about us ripping her off, and she kept referring to the estimate on the back of the envelope that Billy Joe had scribbled for her, and she said she would be talking to her lawyer and asked if we wanted a lawsuit, and then there was no way that she was going to pay the bill. And I tried to calm her down, but her comments really started getting to me and they were upsetting, and we've worked together for so long, I don't understand why she thinks I would rip her off. So then the price that we had given her on that invoice was actually cheaper than it should have been. So I got a new bill based on the standards manual, and I handed her the new bill, and it was $3,446.50 when you use the standard manual for parts and labor. And at that point, she just stomped off and refused to pay.
And stomped off and refused to pay. Did she take the vehicle with her without paying, or?
No, she left the vehicle there.
And you had mentioned something on the phone when you were talking to me about criminal conversion of a mechanic's lien. Do you know?
Yeah, so the next morning after this all happens, I get to the garage and her car is gone. And so it's a small town. I'm driving past her home office on my way to work, and the car was actually out front. And so I thought that she had just come by before I got into the shop that morning and paid the bill. But then when I got to work and started talking to Billy and said Dr. Garfield's car's not out front, and he said that she hadn't paid the bill. So then I called her and mentioned the possibility of a criminal complaint for conversion on a mechanic's lien. And then that's when I called here.
Okay. Okay, so it looks like there's definitely, we could definitely take a look at what kind of claim you would have as far as defending against any claims she might have against you. It's definitely something that we could help you with. You might have a different issue if you wanted to, get a criminal matter involved. We would just be basically taking care of the defense work for you as far as any lawsuits against you or your company?
Well, and at this point, we still haven't been paid
Right.
either.
So, what are your, I guess, what are your goals in this matter? What do you ideally, what would you like to see happen?
Well, I would really like this to be handled quietly because Garfield's family provides us with a lot of work, and they're a close-knit family. And so I'm a little worried about my business, but at the same time, I can't not get paid for the work. I'm going to have to be able to pay my mechanics. And I feel that we solve the car's problems in a cost-effective manner, and that we should at least be fairly compensated for my employees' time and for the cost of the parts. And I really don't want to press criminal charges, but I know that I just used it as a threat, as leverage, in hopes that we could get paid.
So what I'm hearing you saying is that basically you do want to get paid for the work you've done. I know you're upset about the way all this, came about, but at the same time, you value the relationship and the ties in the community that her family has, and you don't want to, burn any bridges there for future business, right? Okay, so that's good to know, and definitely we can, maybe start with a letter or something, or maybe try to start with some negotiations to help resolve matters without, going to a complaint or filing any suits or anything right off the bat, and then maybe we can see about working out a solution that way.
Okay.
Um,
I really think that when she came to pick up the car, the first invoice that we gave her initially was a fair representation of the price. So it was the
1902, is that correct?
no, that was the envelope. It was $3,002. So it was $1,674 for parts and $1,328 for the labor.
So, so you're thinking that would be a reasonable offer or settlement that you'd be willing to take, other than the second.
Other than the second invoice,
Right,
yeah.
Okay, and let's see. Is there anything else that you haven't expressed that you just want to let me know? Any concerns or questions or anything you have about the matter whatsoever?
I don't think so. I am interested to see how fees would work and your representation, how that would work, just because, I have to cover your costs and whatever we get out from her as well. So.
Right. So basically, I believe I emailed you a copy of the contract. Basically, all it says is that it's $200, $250 down to get everything started, and then a $1,500 retainer, and then if it goes into litigation, the cost goes up considerably, but just to get everything started, it'd be like a $1,500 retainer, and then $200 an hour, and that would come out of that initial retainer until you exhausted that fee. Okay, and then if you want to just take a minute to look over that, if you have any questions, we can go ahead and get your retainer agreement signed, and then get everything started for you.
Okay,